Israel Adesanya talks about his upcoming title fight against Dricus Du Plessis. The two are set to contest for the middleweight belt on August 17th at UFC 305. Israel hasn't fought since his loss to Sean Strickland, a bout in which the Kiwi lost his title after an underwhelming performance. Now, all eyes will be not only on Izzy, as his last performance raised many questions about his form and potential to reclaim the title, but also on the much-anticipated face-off between Israel and DDP, both of whom have been chomping at the bit to put hands on each other. With only a few days left before they resolve their beef in the octagon, both fighters make frequent media appearances, and the tension is slowly reaching its peak. In his most recent interview, the former middleweight champion shared thoughts on the DDP matchup, on how he feels as a challenger and how he's looking to take Dricus' head off. Quote, "This one, apart from fighting, I just feel awesome. My body feels great. I feel fresh, I feel clear-headed. It's been a while. By the time I get back into that octagon, it will be about 11 months and some change. So, yeah, it'll be almost a year. And yeah, a lot has happened in a year. I hit rock bottom on purpose sometimes, just so I can climb back out. My body, my mind, and my soul are all refreshed. So I just want to step into the game again as a new man. We live in the generation where everyone has a short attention span, and they forget the classics we've given them. And I'm like, cool, I understand, but I hope everyone keeps the same energy after this fight. I'm not only looking to become the first 3-time UFC middleweight champion, I'm also looking to take his head off. That's all I'm looking to do. This is not wolf tickets. I feel different, and I have nothing to lose, so that keeps me free. I've already been the champion once. I've done it twice, and I'll do it 3 times. Cool story, bro." End quote. Israel also commented on the reason he dislikes DDP so much, something that entices him to try to take his head off in the cage. In a sense, it's not on a personal level, Izzy said. Speaking of the beef between him and the middleweight champion, I don't know the guy personally, but what he said about myself, Kamaru, Usman, and Francis Ngannou is blasphemy. He would not be the champion without us. We paved the way for him. And he's only been able to do it in his country because of his ancestors and what they did. I just want to take his head off, and that will be my trophy." End quote. Robert Whittaker comments on the recently announced fight between himself and Khamzat Chimaev. The former middleweight champion is coming off 2 impressive victories, a decision win over Paulo Costa and a knockout of Ikram Aliskerov, with the last one reminding fans that the Reaper definitely still belongs at the upper echelon of the division, as Ikram was considered one of the hottest prospects in the division, and after dismantling the Dagestani with ease, the UFC decided to throw another difficult challenge at him before granting another title shot, and this time, excitement from the MMA community for this matchup is palpable. The Reaper will face off against Khamzat Chimaev, who hasn't competed since the Usman fight due to different complications on October 26th at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi. Robert broke down the matchup and explained why he's excited for this contest in his latest interview. Quote, "The business isn't completely run on merit. There are times when it is, but a lot of the times it's not. CHIMAEV is a hard fight. He's obviously a big draw over there in Abu Dhabi. He's done the welterweight thing, he's done the middleweight thing, so yeah, he's a draw. And I think the UFC, story-wise, wants to see CHIMAEV get a shot at the champion. They want to see CHIMAEV up the top of the ladder. They want to see him in that picture. But I love disrupting their plans. I love derailing their stories. That's why I took the fight. I asked for that fight. It wasn't offered to me. I saw there was an Abu Dhabi card in October. The timeline fit perfectly. So I was like, I will fight CHIMAEV again. Just make sure he shows up. I look forward to hard fights. I look forward to these fights. And I know that if I beat CHIMAEV, there is nothing that will hold me back to reclaim the title. CHIMAEV, as dangerous as he is, I don't go in these fights thinking what I could lose. I don't look at fights and say, oh man, that's too big of a risk. Every fight is a risk. I have the confidence to think that I will smash anyone that they put in front of me. That doesn't change with CHIMAEV, so I'll get in there in October and worry about a title shot after that. It's a hard fight, and the camp and the fight will make me better. It's in Abu Dhabi, so I've literally come back from that trip. I've called the hotel that I stayed at before. Everything is set up, so it's like I'm going back to my home base. I like fighting in the Middle East. What a way to wrap up the year." End quote. Joe Rogan fires back at Donald Trump after the former president takes a shot at him on social media following Rogan's endorsement of RFK Jr. on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. The whole situation started after Joe stated that he would vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over Trump and Harris on one of his last podcast episodes. Joe said that for a long time, he considered RFK to be a conspiracy theorist nut, but has recently been convinced that he's actually the best available candidate in the upcoming November elections. Joe also revealed why he didn't want to host Trump on his podcast. Quote, he is such a polarizing figure that so many people felt like they could abandon their morals and principles just to attack him and anybody that supports him. I've had the option to have him on my show more than once, and I've said no every time. I'm not interested in helping him. End quote. In response, Trump, who had been friendly with Rogan over the past few months, with the two making complimentary statements about each other, wrote the following, quote, it will be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring. End quote. This development sent shockwaves in the right-wing media space, as many considered Rogan an ally, and the negative comments made on Rogan by Trump took many by surprise, especially considering Joe hadn't really said anything definitive about the elections, nor did he criticize Trump. After this, it felt like the exchange between the two was over. As brief as it was, but that only lasted for a day. As in a leaked moment of a comedy show called Kill Tony, Rogan made a statement about the situation in front of a live audience at MSG, talking to a Trump impersonator. In a surprise appearance, Rogan confronted the fake Trump Shane Gillis, saying the following, quote, listen, I know that you're butthurt because I didn't endorse you and you think I endorsed RFK, which I also didn't do, end quote. Chael Sonnen reacts to Jon Jones basically saying that he will retire after the Stipe fight. Recently, in response to a fan's comment on Instagram, Jon left a comment stating the following, fun fact, after this year, Jon Jones will never have to work again. Retired at age 37, winning. This comment largely sealed many fans' expectation of Jones' upcoming retirement, something that wasn't difficult to guess, considering Jones' rhetoric for the past couple of months as he constantly dismissed the Tom Aspinall fight, seemingly being disinterested in the matchup. Jon's angle has been consistent since the initial announcement of his fight against Stipe. As he put it, the only thing left to do for him in the sport was to beat the greatest heavyweight of all time, something that Stipe has been described as by the UFC and recently more and more frequently by Dana White. Dana, aware of Jon's plan to retire after the next fight, dismisses any question about the possibility of replacing the Stipe with the Tom Aspinall as the latter holds the interim heavyweight championship, is on an impressive winning streak, represents the new generation of heavyweight, and has actual merit to fight Jon. The company is still hopeful that Jon might change his decision after the fight and give stay for one more. Chael Sonnen reacted to Jon's comments, saying the following, quote, I loved his comment. I would like to see Jon start being a little more antagonistic. I feel that Jon, his entire career, has very much given into the public. He just wants it to be common belief that he's the best. Listen, Jon's not going to retire after Stipe. I just love the idea that he's telling you he is. Jon has a right to change his mind, of course, but if he sticks to that story, they're not going to be able to keep Tom on the outside. Tom is going to have to find a new opponent when he realizes that he's not going to be able to get Jon or Stipe. And at that point, Jon can say, I changed my mind. What a glorious moment that would be. It's one thing to go and beat a world champion. It's a whole another thing to manipulate one, to play one. And if Jon wants to manipulate and play, he's going to get started somewhere. Him stating that he will retire is antagonistic, wonderful, and it's about time. End quote. So it's safe to say Chael doesn't take Jon at his word and thinks that Jon might be playing some strategic game of manipulation for the shock value effect. What do you think? Will Jon retire after his next bout, or he'll stay for one more versus Tom Aspinall to most definitively cement his legacy as the greatest? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. Until next time.